Smartwatches can have serious problems. Sure, it's great to have unlimited cosmic power on your wrist, but if you have to charge it every day, if you have to baby it, well, who wants that? Enter the Apple Watch Ultra. Yes, it's better in every single way compared to a traditional smartwatch, and I've been using mine every single day since it was released 8 months ago. I'm not trying to oversell it when I say it's literally the first good smartwatch. Yes, there have been other Apple Watches that I've enjoyed in the past, but once you use the Ultra, you can just you feel how far and away better it is than its contemporaries. Let's get into those specific things that I've liked and disliked over the almost year I've been carrying this around on my wrist. It's a lot. I'm super strong because of how heavy it is. The first, I led off with battery life on the Ultra. It's hands down the best I've ever seen on an Apple Watch. Apple says this can go for 36 hours of regular use or 60 hours in low power mode. Now, if you haven't heard of low power mode before, it's a setting that turns off most of the extemporaneous features such as pushing and pulling data, stuff like that. And because it's running in such a minimalistic way, you get almost a full work week of battery life out of a smartwatch. Even today, even all this time later, that's still impressive to me. I've never actually turned it on though, because despite only working in regular watch mode, I never think about battery life here. I will go on business trips or backpacking trips, and so long as I'll be back in 3 days, I don't even bring a charger with me. I wouldn't have dared to do that with any other watch. Heck, I don't know that I do that with any other piece of equipment I own. I always have a laptop charger, and I always have a phone charger. Unless I'm leaving my house for a week or more at a time, I will not bring this watch charger. That's what I mean when I say it's like the first time you use a smartwatch. It's cool, all the features are fun, and we'll talk about those, but it lasts a really long time. I still think the biggest hurdle for smartwatch adoption is going from a device that needs a new battery charged every 2 years or so to one that needs charged constantly. This is just so good. But let's talk about the first thing I don't like, the price. The Apple Watch Ultra comes in at a very steep $800 price tag. That sucks. And yes, I know that fancy watches or fancy trekking devices cost more than this. I get that, but the price still sucks. I wish you didn't have to spend almost $1,000 to get a useful amount of battery life in a smartwatch. I do really hope in the next round of watch updates, we can get this sort of extended functionality at much lower price points. For example, the next nearest Apple Watch, the Series 8, has literally half the battery life of the Ultra. We shouldn't have to spend so much to not be trapped to a wall charger all the time. I guess if there is a positive to the price, it's that you don't have to then go out and buy an even better version with cellular. That just comes base with the super steep midlife crisis mobile level price tag. Okay, let's get back to something that I've continued to like. I don't mean to put too fine a point on it, but the Ultra has the best watch bands I've ever used. And I guess by bands, I mean band. The trail loop is seriously the best way to put a watch on your wrist that I've ever come across. And just so you have some background when I say this, I've tried a whole range of wrist-mounted GPS devices while in the Army. I've used a ton of other trackers while running triathlons, and I've run literally thousands of miles with GPS watches. And when I go hiking and stuff, I kind of like to know where I'm at too. Not only is it the most comfortable watch band ever, it fixes 2 of the main problems that I had with older sports loops on previous Apple Watches. It instantly goes on. Look at this. I don't have to mess around with trying to squeeze my hand into a tiny little loop opening or anything like that. Instantly. It just instantly fits, and it's so comfortable to wear. Number 2, it doesn't stink. You might think that's a weird thing to say, but I've put at least 480 miles running and probably half that hiking and backpacking on this watch band, and I'm kind of a sweaty guy when I run. Any other watch band that I've ever used, to other braided ones, to other cloth bands, would have reeked at this point. And while you can't actually smell my watch through YouTube, here, can you? That's gross. Trust me, it doesn't smell like anything. I'd pay twice as much for that. Well, I kind of did have to pay extra because originally I bought the Alpine loop, and I don't really like the Alpine loop, seriously, don't buy it, but the trail loop, yes. The next thing I haven't liked might actually be a deal breaker for somebody if the price wasn't already a deal breaker. Okay, the price is worse. This still kind of sucks too because this is so expensive. You might remember back to my original videos about the Ultra and a fun anecdote about how I took a big tumble during a parents versus kids soccer game and I got mud all up in it. That caused the crown to feel really gritty in use. I did take it home, I rinsed it off, and it was fine for a while, But since that last updated video, it has always felt off when turning. Like even right now, it still feels a little slow and a little sluggish. I can get it to feel a little better every time I clean it, but it always grits right back up. Now, I'm not an extreme athlete, nor am I really pushing this to its limits. I'm just a clumsy dude that fell in the mud, and my watch has not been the same afterwards. I say this might be a deal breaker because even in pictures on the Apple website, there's dirt and grime on the watch, like way worse than what I have ever had my watch into. The next thing I've continued to like shouldn't come as any surprise because I mentioned this in every single Apple Watch Ultra video, but it bears repeating because of how good it is. The display is nuts. Normally, I hate big watches. I usually get the smallest Apple Watch version. I get little Casio watches. I hate feeling constrained by having a huge chunk of glass and metal on my wrist. And yet, this display is so good, it's hard to go back to those other smaller choices. This size buys you a very few key benefits. One, obviously, it's very easy to see everything, and that might not sound like a big deal until you are trying to check notifications or emails that look like they were made for ants. This clearly lets you read and interact with that teeny tiny little keyboard, and you can actually, in a pinch, send text messages. It's not bad. Yes, you can do that with all the older ones, but it's just so much harder. Plus, this is the only Apple Watch with a flat display, and that makes all of the difference in the world from a usability standpoint. You don't have to sacrifice as much of the edge for screen real estate, and you also don't have to worry about your finger triggering something else because you are at the end of the screen. That sounds like a small dumb thing to complain about, but again, remember, I use this for lots of miles on my feet, and during exercise, because your heart rate is jacked, you don't exactly have the same fine motor skills that you do when you're sitting at your desk, combined with, you know, everything bumping and moving about. This screen is so easy to use that I really don't think that I could force myself to use a smaller watch because I am spoiled. Did you hear me? I wonder if my 10-year-old can hear me say that. I'm actually spoiled. Oh, and speaking of easy to use, a small thing that I want to harp on is a thing called the action button. You can customize this to start a few different things, and I have mine set to start tracking my runs. All I have to do is press the button, and it just starts working. I don't have to dive into a bunch of menus and end up hitting the wrong thing, which I do quite a bit. I absolutely love this, and again, it's something that I hope gets added everywhere because it's just too darn good. The rest of the good stuff is all the same stuff that you'll get on any other Apple Watch. I love having my songs available to me through streaming. I love all the heart rate and health data that you can gather, GPS tracking tied to my workouts, and combining those last two things into a single device instead of needing a watch and a heart rate chest strap. I like on-wrist notifications and all the other reasons to get a smartwatch to begin with. All this time later, would I recommend you buy the Apple Watch Ultra? Generally, no. It's too expensive and it doesn't exactly do too much that's unique. If you are looking for a decent, just overall smartwatch and you don't mind charging it once a day, just get the Apple Watch SE or the standard Series 8. However, if you want the easiest to use, longest lasting watch that really starts to push what a smartwatch can even be, and if you are willing to pay for it, I could absolutely recommend this to you. I totally love mine and personally don't think that I could go back to a regular Apple Watch in the future. But what about you? Have you used the Apple Watch Ultra? What do you think? Let us all know in the comments below. And if you like this video, click here to see how the M2 MacBook Pro 14 is holding up. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.